So, welcome to episode 63 of Theater School Rejects, the podcast. And we just finished a show that was run by Mrs. K. And I'm here with one of our best comics, Felice G.
Hello.
And where can they find you if they were trying to find you, like on a YouTube or Twitter? Or
You can find me on Tinder and Bumble.
Okay. I did too. Like when I saw it on Tinder, I'm like, here's my stand-up comedy website, and I'm like, if it doesn't work out, maybe I'll get a fan or a YouTube subscription.
I'm actually not on Tinder. I'm over that. But I am on Bumble again. Jesus Christ.
And we're I've done Bumble, and we're joined by, I'm sorry, your name is
Peter.
Peter. And can people find you? Do you have a burgeoning artistic career? Are you an artist, a writer?
No, just a realtor.
Okay. But do you want to give you a realtor website so people can find you for business?
Peter R. Fleck.
Okay. And then normally what we do is like a little bit of walk and talk, so just walk to the corner. So we're podcasting. My usual co-host, or one of my normal co-hosts, Richard Older, couldn't make it because he didn't get booked tonight. He's a little salty about that. But I wasn't in charge of the booking, so I can't blame me. I'm like disclaiming responsibility. But what did you think of the show tonight?
It was fun.
Let's go this way.
Yeah. Peter, what did you think of the show? You were watching it.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, it's entertaining. Absolutely.
Did you have a favorite comic, not counting me or Felice?
Police.
Well, yeah, not counting us. Good answer. Is why I said not counting us. Other people who aren't on this podcast right now.
Who would I say? Missionary guy.
Missionary guy? I don't know who that was. Do you know who that was?
Sexual innuendo.
One that had two beers.
The Reverend.
Reverend. Yeah.
Reverend?
I said
Do
missionary.
you know his name or anything?
I don't remember his name.
He's the guy that was saying he's not getting paid for the show.
No one got paid.
I know, that's the thing.
I don't know. Anyway, so one person we don't know was your favorite who was not on the podcast. But Felice, I thought you had a great set, like always.
Thank you.
Are you working on any new material, or is it just still the...
I am. I'm trying to come up with new stuff. But I mix in some old stuff. You've heard some of my stuff.
Yeah, well, I thought your show when you headline was great. I was really... I just sent you the video for that. That was a great set.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to the next one.
You're the first person on a show I've produced that I didn't headline.
Really?
Yeah, the first one I said, okay, you can headline.
Awesome.
Normally, I reserve that spot for me. But today, I was like, I didn't think I was going to headline because it wasn't my show. I thought Mrs. K was going to headline because I'm like, hey, first time producing a show, guess who the headliner is? But I have like modest people. Like, she's not headlining, and then Andrew Mercado is running the show next month. He's not headlining either. And I'm like, fuck. If someone lets you produce a show and you get to book it, you headline it. Like, I don't know if I trust anyone without that kind of confidence.
All right,
we can
I'll
turn around.
headline.
She's right. I was going to say she's right here.
I'm just talking in general, not specifically. Like, a teacher I had when I was in not even high school, it was in middle school. No, it was high school. And he's like, there was a test. It was like a philosophy class. There was a test, and the professor said, well, mark down what you think you deserve as a grade. And he said he was the only person in the class to give himself an A.
What?
And he got an A. That was the question was basically just a confidence-based exam. And so people gave themselves Bs. That went into the mix for their final grade was a B. And he ended up getting an A for the class because he gave himself an A on the one test where you got to choose your own grade. And I've learned that lesson. I internalized that. If anyone asks you how you did awesome.
So you're giving me a Netflix special after this, is that right?
I don't have that authority.
Oh, man.
Well,
You're an attorney. I thought you...
Yeah, how does that translate?
I don't know.
I thought you had power over Netflix.
I thought you guys could manipulate people into doing stuff.
Well, we can. But that's not reserved to us. Anyone with, an XY chromosome is pretty good at that. Or XX, rather, I suppose. Basically women, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, please.
Oh.
Down.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is the chromosome thing. I mix myself up there. Oh, man.
All right, what else,
Today's
Doug?
the 17th. You're going to do it next month as well in December?
So the third Saturday in December is going to be a show, and we're doing a mental health show. For anyone who doesn't know about it, December 1st, we're doing a show to raise money for the Orange County Warm Line, which is like a mental health thing.
Oh, cool.
And asking comics to do work in like their own mental health issue into their set. That's a lot of she hasn't. But it was only a volunteer basis. We got about 6 comics. It's very different. It's gonna be a good cause. A lot of people don't feel like being that open, which I don't blame them for. But I was like, this is kind of an opportunity to kind of raise awareness of things that like people maybe not talk about a lot. Like one of the comics is gonna talk about hoarding and their struggle with hoarding.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's in like categories. It's not necessarily the whole.
No, well, I'm asking people
Like,
to talk
there
about
you
what their
go,
own
like, I
issue
got all of
is.
them or something.
Like, well, you might have everything, but like, and I just want to talk about this anxiety.
Jesus.
Richard Older's gonna talk about depression.
Get Peter on this.
Well, I don't know if he's a comic.
I'm an open book, but I did an intervention last year.
Oh, nice. For what?
Anxiety and depression.
For someone else or for yourself?
Myself.
Wait, how do you do your own intervention?
I went to the VA.
That's not intervention. That's seeking medical treatment. I'm not sure you understand the difference.
No. I did it. I knew I needed help. And my daughter's actually a therapist.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
One of the comics said she's a therapist. Savannah Kay said she's a therapist. And also Amanda Jill, who does the show sometimes, she's a therapist as well.
Oh, interesting. So does like washing my hands a lot count?
It can.
that?
It's a
You
symptom of
wash your hands
OCD.
with
It doesn't
people.
mean it is, but it's a symptom.
I was holding the mic today, and then it touched my lips, and I was like, "Oh my God, did I get something?"
Okay, this is where I'm at. I'm carrying Listerine in my car now, which I didn't before because you said that.
Oh yeah.
You have transmitted that to me.
Yes.
What about the open house?
Although I think there's a Listerine. I think they probably sell Listerine in that. Certainly 7-Eleven sells it.
Oh, you know what I read? They used to market Listerine as a floor cleaner. And then it became a cure for gonorrhea, and then it became a breath freshener. That's what we're using.
It works. No, seriously.
For what?
No, seriously. I had my tongue pierced, and they said use Listerine 4 times a day after time you eat, and my tongue did not get infected.
Nor
And I
did you
knew-
get gonorrhea.
And nor did I get gonorrhea. It probably fixed it. Oh, well, actually, so there's an interesting story about that, which came up. Do you know why they used to say you can get it from using the bathroom, venereal
Why?
diseases? Because obviously it's wrong, right? But what they said it was they thought if people had a non-sexual excuse, that they would be more likely to go see a doctor, and they wouldn't have to say, I had sex with this person or I had sex without protection. So they thought people would be more willing to go see doctors if they were able to, not have to admit to sexual relations.
Huh.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I thought it was all like, why would they put that out there? Because then people were afraid to use bathrooms. But it had like a kind of like make it easier for people to seek medical treatment. I was like, well, that's good. That's a good reason. Anyway, that's why I think that's what I read somewhere. Doesn't make it true, but it seemed like it was on like I think it was on a British show where they're usually pretty accurate about their info. It was like called Quite Interesting.
Yeah, I guess they might feel it. I don't know.
What?
I don't know. I was just talking to Peter. I'm like, they're diagnosing everything as a disease here. Everything in the world is like, oh, you bite your nails too much. You have a disease. Or you do this and you have a disease. And like all these behavioral things being classified as diseases. What's your take on that?
I don't think that's right. I don't think it is a disease. I think your mental sort of situation, I think you are your mind in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So if you're depressed, I don't know if that's like you shouldn't take pills for that. It's more like that's who you are, child at depression. Because like if Edgar Allan Poe wasn't depressed, would he have written The Raven? Like if he was like on antidepressants, he'd still be creative. I don't think it zombifies you out, but he would have wrote something called like The Rainbow Puppies. He would have been a different person. Is what I'm saying. He'd be creative, but he wouldn't have been like focused on like death and like dark
Yeah.
messengers from the underground. He'd have wrote about like shiny, happy puppies, and rainbows and unicorns. So I'm like, but I think it's a defense mechanism. Like you have trauma or some kind in your childhood ages, and your mind adapts to it. It finds patterns of behavior that lets you survive, and then when you're no longer in those traumatic situations, those behavior patterns can be problematic rather than helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, life is a building block. And, your base is when you're younger, and you keep adding stuff on top of it.
Well, yeah, like I think anxiety comes from where you don't feel safe.
Exactly.
And you cope by that by being hyper vigilant, and maybe it helps. Like people with abusive like parents, you're hyper vigilant with the hope that like you can notice the trouble signs and find some way to fix it. Usually you can't,
Right.
but your brain is trying to help. But being hyper vigilant, if you're not in a traumatic situation, is like I said, it's not helping you. And they're either therapy or pills that can help with that. If it makes you better functional, then
Yeah.
that's what you do. But like, I joked around because I went to the VA once for anxiety, and they gave me these pills, and like side effect, nausea, vomiting, you know, possible
Anxiety.
death, right? And I'm like, how can you warn people about these kind of side effects and think someone with anxiety is going to take it?
Right.
So I never took the pills.
That just
You're
gave you
better?
more anxiety.
Huh?
You're a veteran?
Yeah, I'm a veteran. I did 4 years active in the Coast Guard, and I did 3 years in the Army National Guard afterwards. But yeah, I did 4 years active on ships. And I used to joke around a buddy of mine. He was struggling with OCD, and they gave him pills.
What did he have?
OCD, obsessive. We have a bunch of things, but one of the things is obsessive compulsive disorder.
But like, was he like really clean, or did he have to touch a doorknob like 20 times before leaving?
Pattern behavior, like it wasn't like the doorknobs, but there was things he had to do over and over, and
Okay.
had to be very precise about it. And then they didn't give him the right they gave him a prescription, but it wasn't like it balanced out. Like it was a 20 milligram, he was supposed to take 10, so he
Okay.
had to cut it in half. And I don't know if that's funny to you, but it's hilarious to me to give someone with OCD pills they have to cut in half. 'Cause I just imagine they're not perfectly cut in half.
even?
I can't do that. And he would just go through a bottle and only take like one pill.
That's horrible.
Oh, you see it though, right? That's a good
Yes.
joke. That's what I said to him. And I'm wondering if I can put that on stage because I feel that there's a joke there.
No, I think there is. Because I actually have to cut my pill.
But you don't have OCD.
No.
But like,
It's
but
the same.
Felice said she has OCD tendencies.
when you-
So Felice, you can understand like it would have to be perfect.
Yeah, you got one that's like 3/8 and one's 5/8.
You can't take that.
Which one
That's
am I
going in the
gonna take
trash.
tonight?
That's the trash. That's trash.
That's funny.
I'm glad you think so.
No, it is because I sit there and look at it like, oh shit, I missed.
Right? Oh, I had to buy a pill cutter for something they gave me that was like I was supposed to take half,
They
and
have
I'm like,
pill cutters?
yeah, oh yeah, again. Well, I was like, well, I tried using a knife, and both ends like flew off
Cut your finger
the
off.
plate. Yeah, well, it was a
Oh,
butter
no.
knife, and it went skittering, and I'm like, okay, well, that's not working.
I did that with an antihistamine because I was trying. It was like 180 milligrams. I'm like, I don't need this much. So I tried to cut it in half, and the knife was making squeaking sounds, and then half of it flew somewhere, and then it wasn't even. It's the worst part.
Of course, you're right there. But like, and well, I know that that's a real thing for you, but imagine being given an OCD prescription where they know it's a thing for you
Yeah.
and
It's
asking
like
you to cut in
torture.
half. I mean, that's sadistic.
Yeah.
That is.
That is not okay.
You're right.
That's
That's pretty bad.
right. Again, or giving pills with major side effects for people with anxiety. That's not smart.
No.
Who's taking those pills? But then, so anyway, but I'm really excited about it, and it's gonna be this. We're gonna try and raise money for this Orange County Warm Line, and the concept is kind of like, when it's not an emergency, I won't call a hotline, but you still need to talk to somebody to get through a rough night. That's kind of the idea of it.
But does it have to be? So it has to be like what you've experienced. It can't be your take on something. Like, is that insensitive if you try to talk about something, but it's not something that you personally experienced?
No, you can do it if you want. I'm asking people to make it personal.
Okay.
Like, not to be off color, but like kind of like my concept of the show was kind of like a vagina monologues, but
Okay.
for mental illness, where
Okay.
people would kind of like talk about their specific problems or like encounters with it.
Okay.
But you know, I'm not going to insist on it because I've actually only got 6 people and I could use some more people. So,
Okay.
so loosening the rules somewhat might be
Yeah.
useful.
And
But
when was that? That was
December 1st.
December 1st.
It's the first Saturday of December.
Okay.
Well, I said I booked most of the people because I posted about it and people who were interested like hit me up because it was a thing of like I didn't really want to outreach to people because again, it
Yeah.
involves a lot of personal,
Yeah.
almost confessional
And then
kind
you're
of thing.
picking them out. Yeah. One by one. What do you have?
Well, that was the thing is like I was really hoping to get like a wide array, like the uncommon ones.
Okay.
Like I wanted somebody to come forward with, and I thought this in the podcast before, with borderline personality disorder.
Oh. Okay.
Which is because like I don't really know anybody with it. My understanding is like that you just basically fuck up everyone's good time. Like when you see people happy, you just gotta ruin it. That's
Really?
that. Well, what they say is that is a borderline personality. What I heard from Dr. Drew was that you have so much chaos internally that in order to survive, you project that chaos onto people around you. Which basically means you behave manipulatively, you hurt people around you, you lash out at them, a lot of rapid emotional changes, and what basically just translates to you're an asshole and you suck to be around. But I thought like the
So
first.
that's the proper diagnosis.
Yeah.
Asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but there actually is like antisocial personality disorder, which is just basically you're a criminal, like that, like that's which is like it got thrown out by the DSM because like this is just a description. This isn't a problem.
I was about to say, are we going to get sued for this? But then I remembered you're an attorney, so I'm thinking,
Yeah, but I mean, but borderline personality disorder, I'm actually interested what it is like to feel that kind of internal chaos where you need to like basically shit on people to get through the day. And I think there'd be humor there. You know, I was like imagining someone come up and be like, you know how you just get that nails on the chalkboard feeling in your head when you see someone smile?
Ah. Doug, you sound like you might want to talk about that.
Oh no, I'm just trying to imagine what it's like. Because like, that's why I'm also a writer and I'm like trying to like imagine what a different headspace looks like. But I was also like hoping like, you know, people talk about like maybe paranoia. Someone comes in and be like, you know, who actually is like paranoid and like, you know, what experience like internally. Again, just thought it'd be interesting.
What else there might be? I feel like we're flooded with so much, you know, all these medical ads on TV about, are you sad and are you depressed and
my
are
God.
you know, do you have anxiety?
Well, they didn't used to be able to, that direct marketing,
Oh,
because
yeah.
they found that they could. And it's like, you know, what about booze? People have been, like, you get stigmatized for being an alcoholic, but it's okay to be on 19 different prescriptions.
Yep.
Most of them
Right.
having worse side effects than alcohol.
Right.
Like, there's a cure. We already have a cure.
You know, the U.S. is the only country besides New Zealand who actually does the direct advertising to consumers.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that, but I mean, that makes
Yeah.
sense, because the U.S. is basically, you know, been bought out. Our government is owned by big corporations.
Yeah.
And although, you know, hopefully that's changing. Orange County flipped from red to blue. And, you know,
Thank God.
if they counted votes in Florida and Georgia, it would have flipped there too.
No,
But luckily, they're
They're both
post-democracy. No, I'm saying if they counted votes.
I lived in Florida for 6 years. They go in the trash cans.
No, yeah, Florida, what was it? You see the thing about, there was the ballots, the vote tallies were 2 minutes late, so they threw them out.
I
Yep.
read about that.
And it just happened to be a heavily leaning Democratic county.
Oh, of course.
Just happened. 2 minutes late. What does that even mean? Anyway, but not to get sidetracked politics, but I mean, like, it is a big thing. Like, I did a bit here at Fountain Valley about copyright law, which did not go over well.
Why?
Why did it go over well? Why did I do it?
Why?
Well,
Why didn't it go over well?
Because copyright law, that's not really interesting to people. But what I try to focus on is that Disney single-handedly, not just changed US law, changed international copyright law so they wouldn't lose their copyright to Mickey Mouse. Like, one business rewrote laws for the entire world,
Wow.
and they did it 3 times. You can look up Disney and copyright law. Just Google
Disney
it.
was a genius.
Well, he was dead. This is after his died.
Oh, okay. I mean, just like how
Because
he
it used to be like 25 years after the author's death or the creator,
Right.
you would lose right to the thing, and it would go into the public domain, and that's why like we can have King Arthur stories and Robin Hood stories, or we can have, you know, people can write about Jekyll and Hyde,
Mhm.
and you can write a new story, and Jekyll and Hyde can be your characters, or, you know, Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde, like they made a movie, and you don't have to pay any royalties because they're in the public domain. It expands the world we get to interact characters.
So is that why everyone's making money off Marilyn Monroe?
Well,
Did I just go off on a tangent?
No, but,
she's
like,
just, you know,
that's why it's like likeness fees, which is a little bit different. Copyright would be something that you created, such as a movie or a TV or a book. And basically, the characters in the book
Okay, so it's
would
not a
ordinarily go into
person.
public domain.
Okay.
But when it became like 25 years after Disney died, and they realized, it was like 1993, they realized they're going to lose all this money because anybody can make a Mickey Mouse cartoon, they went and changed the law to be like plus 50 years. And so then 25 years after that, they're like, it was about to end, and they went in this huge just political campaign where they spent tons of money, gave it to politicians, and then it became life plus 75 years. There's no reason to protect. Disney's not being protected. He's dead. He
Right.
died 75 years ago. We're protecting a huge corporation, which is very different than what copyright law was intended, which was to protect individuals who are disadvantaged. And understanding how those changes, which stopped, you know, characters from becoming in the public domain, gave Disney the money to buy Marvel and Star Wars, and become even larger and more powerful, and also control more characters. And like those characters, Superman, Batman, would have become part of the public domain, but they're not. So not only did Disney preserve Mickey Mouse, they preserved not Superman, but they preserved the X-Men and the Hulk, which they then bought the rights to.
Oh wow.
And like I said, it's not necessarily, I don't know how to make it funny, but it's important to understand how the laws were changed to benefit one company.
I was about to say, what was your punchline to that?
Oh, I kind of went that if it wasn't the case, I was like, we could have, if they hadn't done the copyright law change, then Scott Summers and like Wolverine would be public domain, which means you could make a Wolverine White Queen porno movie and no one could sue you for copyright.
Just had to go there.
Well, I had to do something. I hadn't like worked out the set. It was just I had a theme that I want to talk about, and I'm trying to like bring the audience in as I'm trying to explain, you know, this extremely dry copyright law to 10 people in Fountain Valley as I'm headlining the show.
And everyone was confused. They're like, well, he just went to porn, so that got our attention. But
That's all I did. I was like, how do I get this back? Anyway, that was our episode of 63 of Theater School Rejects. Thank you for joining us, Felice and
Peter.
And people can find you on Tinder, apparently, and Bumble, yeah. And you can find me at DougXComedy.com and on Twitter at Love is Cthulhu. All right, podcast 63 addendum.
because he's an attorney.
This came up, but it was too good not to miss. We were talking about drug addiction, and I said, why can't they have a healthy addiction instead of like to meth, to like, or vaping, to stage time? Because I know comics would sell their mom for 5 minutes of stage time.
It was funnier when we talked about it previously. Okay, guys?
Addendums are never funny.